We'll call to order the November 4th redevelopment commission meeting.
Pete Murphy.
Sorry.
Dale Neeleman.
Here.
Alex Jordan.
Here.
Ruth Hess. Here. Larry Longman.
Here.
Greg Brewer. Shannon Walls.
Okay, next we have the approval of the October 7th meeting minutes.
Yeah, they look good to me. I move that we approve them as written.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. I just exited out of my agenda on accident, so next thing is the financial report.
Or the cash flow.
I'll do the cash flow too,
And
which
the
is
cash.
new. The big thing you'll see here is us paying for the traffic light at Villages of Brookside. So the cash accounts for, man, I can't see anything tonight. HRH look lower than normal, as well as Brookside, and then there's still some outstanding invoices. So those cash reserves are being used on that project, but that's a good thing, and people seem to be pretty happy about it. So, for the most part, unless you're stuck at the traffic light.
I think it's a lot safer. It's good.
It is. It actually, what I've seen is it has done exactly what we thought it'd do. People don't like traffic lights, but it spreads traffic out and creates gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can actually get out of here every once in a while by having a traffic light there, because it gives you an extra gap. So every once in a while you don't just have wall-to-wall traffic. So
Yeah.
trains still cause problems, but I've only seen it one time back up through the light so far, so that's good. And then working with Bondry, and this says draft because we're gonna clean this up after our December draw. But we've been trying to get to, this is what I've been talking about for about a year and a half, as we've been working through the county to restate our allocation areas as well as get data. And so as things are getting certified this year, we finally feel better about our numbers. And I say better because there's still questions on here. Some of them aren't really the county's fault. We did catch some errors in neutralization that Bondry worked with the county to correct. It was just bad data. We were given the wrong data and they corrected it, but it was like a $7 million hit to our base off of Meyer for some reason. It was really weird. But that's pretty significant.
Yeah,
base
7 million. Wow.
So the only weird one in here that I'll point out right now, if I can see, actually next year our projected cash flow, and I'll get a little bit into this, we're starting to see some of the commercial in Brookside. HRH is cash flow in their bond, which is good. We'll talk about that a little bit. Broadway Aurora Way is covering their debts plus a chunk now, so we actually have some cash on hand to be able to do a project too. I wouldn't say we're flush with cash by any means, but we're not just paying the bills. We got a little bit of money to buy a property or do a project or something like that, so that's good. And then this is the one I wanted to talk about, McCordsville allocation area. We're digging into this one a little bit. Typically, so this is a standalone TIF for the 2 apartment buildings at McCordsville. And typically when you set those up and you do a minimum taxpayer agreement, you're setting that up to cover basically the bond payment, which is about 400 and some thousand when it's full effect.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, we're collecting like 800 and like double the bond amount is the assessment. It doesn't make any sense to me that they'd have that much coverage, and why we'd issue a bond that has that much coverage in it. So we're trying to figure out why that's the case. I'm a little concerned that now the Pride will get their tax bills and wonder why they're $400,000 tax bills. So just something seems off there. It's not how we would have structured that. But they also had the wrong parcels last year, so we had no income from it last year. Mm-hmm. If you remember, it's like $2,000, so they paid all of it last year. Well, according to this, next year we'll have reserves of $320,000
Right.
after we pay the bond. That doesn't make any sense. So we're gonna dig into that. It shouldn't take too much digging because there's only 2 parcels in the whole allocation area. But we've seen some really weird assessment stuff out at McCord Squares. In particular, just last Friday, we took over the park properties from Rebar. And we had to settle up the taxes, and for some reason they were assessed really high, like double what you would have thought they were. So we're not sure what's going on in McCord Square. We're going to dig into that whole area and try to figure out what's going on in the assessments there, because everything just seems to be much higher than it should be. And this doesn't make any sense. Like, why would we do a minimum taxpayer agreement if we had 200% coverage?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. So with a grain of salt, we'll have great coverage in McCord Square next year, and we'll
Well,
see what's going on.
would they like dispute it?
They could.
Yeah.
And the other positive to this, if this is true for some reason, which I'll talk a little bit about in my presentation later here, is with the deductions out of SEA 1 for the 2% class.
Yeah.
This will not this is actually adjusted for this. This was actually higher than the 807. We adjusted down. So it's a weird scenario. So I just want to point that out. That's why it's still draft too. We're still working on some of this, but and then North 600, that is mostly the vacant 1 million square foot warehouse. That's sorry, it's like to poke that one every once in a
They're
while.
paying their taxes.
They're paying their taxes, and the tax abatement is slowly going off. So you're starting to see some income. That's what Patch is in, which is a good thing that there's some cash flow and some balance in there. So as the Patch development continues on, even with the minimum taxpayer agreement, there's still plenty of coverage in that allocation area. We'll still have some projects down in there over time. So that's about it. Cityscape. Obviously, the bond payments haven't started in there yet, and they're barely collecting, but that'll change next year. So, helpful to know what we're dealing with. So, that's it.
Okay. Anybody got questions? Okay. We don't have any old business, so new business. We have HEA 1242 2025 TIF report.
Yep. So let me pull this up.
That's why we drew a crowd tonight.
Yeah. We appreciate Buck Creek Township being here this evening. So they come every year, though, so I appreciate that, because I've done this report to nobody many, many times. So, that's true. Happy to accommodate. I'm going to go quick on a lot of these slides, because a lot of it is, if you recall, I put in a lot of TIF 101. All of you have kind of sat through this plenty of times, so I just like to do it in case we get surprised by a newbie. So, as a reminder, this was put in place in 2018 as a report to kind of, an annual report, if you will, to the overlapping taxing units, to be more transparency to your overlapping units of what you're doing within your TIF districts and how you're spending the money and what your plan is for them. So just a recap of our 2025 RDC members and staff. The new part this year, I'm going to go through this kind of quick. There were a lot of changes in SEA 1 all around. When it first came out, everyone kind of said, oh, TIF didn't get touched much. It kind of was over. Well, the more they dug into that, it actually did quite a bit. The good news is most of it does not affect McCordsville. This first part is all about 1% residential TIFs. We have none. We don't do residential TIF. We've been asked a few times here recently, and we just keep saying no because it just doesn't make any sense. With SEA 1, it makes even less sense, so we're not going to start doing that. That's all outside of our TIF districts. So a lot of changes. You're welcome to read that if you'd like. But again, we do not do any projections. The only thing that does affect us is on TIFs established starting next year, allocation areas. They're redoing how the neutralization works for the bases moving forward. which I don't like this provision. What they're trying to do is account a lot of what came under fire here recently was people were capturing not new growth, they were capturing market corrections. So, as housing sales went up, everybody's assessments went up, right? You're not supposed to capture that. That's market growth.
Right.
You're supposed to capture new project growth, but everyone was capturing the market growth. So this new neutralization is trying to correct that by saying, well, the market grew this way, so your base is growing this much. You're pushing it into the base. I don't love that because it's kind of a...
So they're following each other?
They're following each other, exactly. That's their attempt to fix that. I could see some problems with overcorrecting your base and losing revenue in the long term. So we'll see how that works out. But I don't think it'll have a huge impact on us. Again, I put this one in here. There were some significant changes to business personal property taxes, the thresholds and depreciation floors. We don't capture personal property TIF. We pass it through. We don't even have a lot, which I think's in the next slide. Oh yeah, here it is. We have, this was before and this is after. We actually have 5 companies that would actually have business personal property after the changes. So, and I think one of them is like Citizens. It's the water tower. So, it actually says City of Indianapolis, but so it just does not have a huge, personal property tax is not a huge hit to us. We don't capture it. It passes through, which is good when we're doing new projects that we're not capturing in the personal property tax. So the one that does affect us and that will affect current projects, such as McCord Square Phase 2 that did not make it to the agenda tonight, is this change in the 2% class. It wasn't really, I'm sorry, that's a lot of writing and a lot of graph on here. It's not all necessary for you to understand. This is the important part I'll talk about. Essentially, the 2% bucket, which is, for our intents and purposes, apartments, multi-use buildings, were granted a basically homestead credit, if you will. Their type of homestead credit deduction that will phase in over time. The problem with that is exactly how we set up a lot of our bonds, right? So Cityscape, McCord Square, even Patch, although they're 3%, we capture their spots as specific TIFs. So we capture their AV, it pays the bond off, that goes away, money comes on. It's not doing a bigger area. We're not doing projects. It's kind of helping that specific project. Put a minimum taxpayer agreement under it. Well, we typically would base those projections off of the anticipated AV over 25 year period. Well, now that's being deducted. So for McCord Square, they have a minimum taxpayer agreement and they have a deduction coming on that they didn't really ask for and they can't really opt out of, that will reduce their property taxes over time. So there will be a gap that they'll have to pay due to the minimum taxpayer agreement, unless our fiscal income plan is correct and they're way over.
Then they might be
so
leveling.
We'll figure that one out. But so the problem with this is, as we're working on projections for McCord Square Phase 2, as we talked about at the last meeting, we have to build in these deductions. So they're asking for 100%. We don't typically do 100% anyways. We're going significantly less. They're asking us why, and we're saying because you're never going to be able to cover it. So there's a lot less capture over time for these multi-use and apartment type projects due to this provision. So this one actually has a pretty big impact to how, not necessarily projects going forward, we just have to account for it. And so it's less money towards a project, so it makes financing a little more difficult.
So when the legislature did this, they didn't grandfather in existing agreements?
Not at this time. Now, there are some changes that are being proposed, amendments to clean this stuff up, because I don't think that it was originally sold that you could opt into the deduction. So if you had an existing, you didn't have to take it. So if you had an outstanding bond, you could say, that's fine, it's a path. I think this was more driven by farmland versus the apartments.
Yeah.
And so the apartments weren't really asking for this because they passed their property taxes through to their tenants.
Yeah.
So it's not really a big hit for them. But because they have it, now they have to account for it. And a lot of them who have minimum taxpayer agreements or bonds outstanding, originally they were told they could opt out of it. And then when it finally passed, it was automatic. So that's being worked out behind the scenes, and we'll see what happens. So this one concerns us a little bit. This is, I put all this on, this is from a report we had, but this is what happens, changes in property tax liability by class right there. Let me see, sorry. We actually, it's a 6% drop on multifamily, and the burden of property taxes goes to commercial and industrial right there. So residential drops, and office and multifamily drop, and it burdens over here. So I'm assuming then they'll complain at the next legislative session and they'll make changes, so then it'll all shift back, but you just never know. So it's a work in progress. I just wanted to make you aware of this is in real time for us, because as we're negotiating McCord Square Phase 2, we're trying to account for significant deductions. So, and if you want to know, right now, this is a snapshot of McCordsville. We are a whole lot of single family. So if you go, so that's the biggest loss we have right there. And that's a majority of what our community is. So the advantage we have right now is our significant growth. So we're not losing, we're maintaining, but we're not maintaining enough to service everything that's coming online in the long term. That's our unique situation to all that. I will skip over this since we've talked about it before. What you can use a TIF for, unless you have any questions. I'm sure by this point you're well versed in TIF districts. General guidelines, there was some changes in 2023 that we talked about that allow us to be able to buy public safety equipment, operating some things for schools as well. We've set up a couple of our allocation areas to not pass through 100%. One of them, Cityscape, which isn't collecting at this point. So once that comes online, we should have some money, and we'll come up with some kind of grant program to get requests, if you will. But it will not be significant money like the county has. But it'll be something. Maybe it buys something small. So everything helps these days, right? We'll looking at our cash flows, and if they continue, we'll probably try to do some more pay-as-you-go type projects, so we're not bonding out. And then, like I said, we'll try to pass through some of the money to overlapping units if we have some excess as we work on future spending plans. It's just when expirations, they used to be 30 years and they went down to 25. So depending on when you establish them is when your allocation area is complete. So town, finance-wise, we held our rate. This is actually 25. They haven't certified our 26 rate yet because we're doing the appeal as well. However, we're within a penny or two of this year's rate. I think we're like 0.53 maybe. It's very close. We've tried to keep it. We've bought down debt payments with some seeded dollars to keep it pretty even. I will tell you that changes significantly due to SEA 1 and going to the income tax. Everybody's tax rate will go up. So we used to, well, let's just go to the next slide. This is what we used to tout to the public is, hey, we're keeping your tax rate steady. We're doing everything we need to do and not raising your rate. And this is holds true. In a year or two, it's going to go up. And so we have to tell the public why that is, and it's more so we have this levy we have to meet, and this is what we have to do to meet it. How we collect those funds will be different is the key to that. It won't all be property tax. So this becomes a little irrelevant in a year or two.
Mhm. And we can only raise so much in a given year
Correct.
based upon a percentage rate.
So, but in the meantime, we're holding we were steady in 24, 25, and I think we have a penny or so this year, just the way it worked out. And then our total effective tax rate, so when you bring in townships, county, schools, we're under that 3%. So industrial just still does well for us because we're not at the property tax caps. So our rates are actually pretty good. So, and those haven't been certified for 26 either, but I don't anticipate them changing much. And assessed value. So this is the first year that we broke as McCordsville $1 billion of assessed value. So obviously the county has significantly more, but us and Greenfield are the only two above $1 billion at this point.
Really? What was that Fort Bill was there?
Yep. About twice the size of them right now. Well, not quite twice. Sorry, that's not right. About at least 25-30% larger than they are right now. So yeah, we're above $1 billion. I did check in. We're having another record year on permits. So we were at about 550, a single family. I'll correct that. We were at about 550 last year, and we'll probably be in the 600 range this year, which doesn't feel like it. That's why I asked the question, but apparently things are going well. So, quick snapshot. This is kind of a consolidation of the income report that I showed you of what our estimated revenue is from our different allocation areas for next year. Again, McCord Square seems like an oddball, and because I think it is an oddball, I think something's wrong there. HRH covers their bond. North 600, obviously we talked about, and Broadway, Aurora Way, I believe the bond payments will be, it's not quite full next year. I think it's like 380 next year, but when it's full, it'll be about 460. So you're starting to see some cash flow in Broadway, Aurora Way, but that's also the area where we have the most projects. So always something to do.
Sorry, remind me again, North 600, is that Patch? Is that the
North
west side?
600 is where Patch is,
Okay.
yeah.
And
actually-
Aurora Way is basically Nyer all the way up.
Yeah, Southworks is part of Broadway, Aurora Way, and then Nyer is part of 600 Industrial.
Okay.
We kind of split it but they're all within the Broadway economic development area, so you can actually use that money either way.
Okay.
So, but we kind of split it because we knew we had Aurora Way's extension and Aurora Way roundabout and other projects on the south side that we wanted to kind of separate the dollars for. So, this is just, so it's kind of hard to read in this. This is just our current outstanding debt. So you have 2014's HRH bond. You have 2022's, both those are McCord Square. One of them's the tax exempt infrastructure bond. The other one's the taxable McCord Square bond for the apartments. 2024 is the Cityscape Broadacre 6 and 6 roundabout that just opened up. And 2025 is your bond for Patch Development for that new business park at 500 and 600. Looking into 2026, we'll be considering the McCord Square Phase 2 bond, hopefully in December, at least starting it. It wouldn't actually be issued till sometime in 26. So, any questions? Okay. Just to recap, we don't have to spend a lot of time on these. Brookside is kind of our north side, smaller TIF. We're seeing some more revenue in there with the commercial that's being developed. The only thing I want to point out on the HRH is we are eligible to refund that bond now. We may do it. There's not a significant savings. It's a little less than $100,000 savings, but we still might if we're taking out one of these other bonds, we might tack it to it. Just to me, even $100,000 is $100,000 saved over time. So
And when you say refund, you mean refinance?
you refinance it. It's called refunding of the bonds,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, refinancing the bonds at a better rate and better terms. So we're eligible to do it now. It's a matter of when or if we want to do it. I wouldn't do it standalone, but if we can save on all the fees because we package it with another one, $100,000 is $100,000. So, that's just a little bit about that bond. That's cash flowing fine. We're doing great there. Broadway Roar, that answers your question. So yeah, we got Southworks down there, and then it's basically Broadway and the main area here. McCord Square is the Jackson and the Lucas. And then North 600 is the south industrial area, so the Nyer, this area, the undeveloped area, and then this is basically Patch and just north of Patch. Patch is down here, and then just north of Patch. So, and then Cityscape is just the Cityscape area there. That's it. We all know what TIF does. Again, I'll let you read it if you want. School impacts, we can, as similar to public safety, we can do some programs through the schools as well as we have cash flow to help offset some of their costs. Schools, fire districts, all getting hit way harder than we are with SEA1. So just keeping that reality in front of everybody. There's a lot of talk about fire districts and what the future of fire districts and how they're run are as well. So you guys have your hands full more than, I'm not in panic mode yet, but I know schools in particular are not loving it. So in 2025, there's just a recap of what you guys accomplished. We put the light in at Brookside Parkway and 600 North. It is functional. I believe we're waiting on some light. There's some minor finishes we have to do, but for the most part, it's up, it's operational, people are happy. Patch development on the south side. So I actually went out to the loft beam signing for InPower, which is the first project. It's a great project being built there. It's actually ahead of the infrastructure. Shocking to nobody, Citizens is holding up the infrastructure going in. I mean, just flip a coin between CenterPoint or Citizens, frankly. Yeah. So that's actually becoming a problem because InPower is moving really well and the roads are not. And it's November and they're talking about snow next week. So here we go.
Well, it's November.
So we're making contingency plans. It'd be nice to get this finished up, but some of it's probably going to go into the spring. So we'll see how that works out. The acquisition, we almost forgot about this one, but in the new year, I will start design. I have money allocated through the town budget for design of the parking lot, public parking at, I always get those two confused. It's not Forum, it's the other one, Depot. Depot and Broadway. And then hot off the press, we have our first renderings of the renovation of our old post office / car lot. So we're working on we updated the PUD to include that into the community center PUD. And in the new year, we have money allocated that becomes kind of a little living history spot along Broadway where the Leader automobile will be displayed. And that's about it because that building is really, really small. But I think it could look really cool, as you can see in the renderings of what we're going to kind of make it look like an old station, putting it up, and we'll do a plaza next to it and sidewalks along Broadway. And another project outside of the RDC scope, we're going to try to do sidewalk from here as far down as we can past the church if the RDC is able to and decides to buy the old trading post site finally. I know we've talked about it like 3 years in a row. Yeah. Just never kind of gets to the top. Do a sidewalk all the way down there and try to get to the next road. So start that process. So we have some money in the budget next year for that as well. And that was kind of the big things for this year. 2026, We still have the community center. We haven't actually had to ask the RDC for anything in the community center for the most part, so that's a good thing. McCord Square infrastructure in phase 2, we've already talked about. Hopefully that gets moving here. You can ignore the bridge connection from Broadway. That's probably going to get bumped back till 27. It's not really a bridge either. It's really just
say, what are we talking there?
it already exists, but we're supposed to make it kind of look like a bridge. It's connecting to retention ponds, but it kind of looks like a bridge, but it's not a bridge. It's just a road. We'll get back to that one. McCord Square amenities are always on the table. Parkland purchases, again, we're conduiting through the RDC with park impact fees, but just a much better process through the RDC. And then as we get to the spending plan in a second, the really only thing I have in the spending plan is a little bit of money to buy a property, which right now I would recommend the old Trading Post as our target for next year on Broadway. So Brookside, your money's pretty much spent there. On the radar from last year's idea, we have the infrastructure. We still own the old hangar property. I'd love to get rid of the old hangar property at some point. But there's quite a bit of public infrastructure goes in there. We have people kicking tires in this area and that area. None of them keep landing. So at some point, somebody will get there and we'll have a project to do. Trail connections around 900. There's still a lot of activity going there. And the roundabout at 900, we actually did submit for, of all things, the county submitted for us, which was very nice of them, at a rural funding grant. And so it's a little different than our MPO dollars. We think we have a better opportunity to get funding for the roundabout at 900. So if we got it, though, that's 5 years out. So don't get too excited.
I think everybody's a little fatigued after 600.
Yeah, well, they're going to be really fatigued over the next 2 years
Yeah.
as we do the major project at 6 and Broadway and we do the roundabout at 750 and 27. Everyone's going to just want the road to not be touched for a year or two.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. HRH, just debt repayment and the potential refunding, 600. There's some projects out there, but at this point, we're just letting Patch get done with their infrastructure and getting that bond up and running and make sure we have enough coverage. So the rest of those are just debt service. So, any questions? We're not a very complicated RDC. We keep it pretty much to the book, the original book, as I like to call it. You can get pretty fancy with TIF districts and captures. Like I said, we don't do personal property. We don't do residential. We stick to infrastructure, property acquisition, and quality of life place type improvements. And we don't sit on a lot of cash. So.
What's the projected completion date of Empower?
Steel's going up now, so I don't know how to project
June.
that out.
May maybe? May, June?
I think they want to go sooner than that.
Do they?
Yeah, maybe end of March, April.
Mhm.
So we'll see. They're moving.
How is it, like 50,000 feet?
I think it's closer to it's 70.
Okay.
It's a pretty big building, so it's a good catch there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Patch, once they get the infrastructure done, will start their flex building, which is about 80,000 square feet right next to it. So,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. Next we have the resolution 110425 2026 spending plan.
So this is a new requirement as well. We always like to complain that all these feel like the exact same required report, just in a little different format, and expensive to have our FAs put together. So, but this is your entire spending plan. So what we project to do now, you can amend these as we discussed. We're not really sure what the penalty is if you mess it up, but what you see is the projected incomes next year. We don't really have any capital projects. I've allocated, we had about 400,000 or 500,000 left over and not leftover, but available abroad they were away. So I've allocated in the capital projects plan $300,000 for property acquisition. We'll see what that does for us. And then outside of that, this TIF administration is really bond fees for reports and projections and everything else. We're trying to get a little away from the seed it that we've always given you like 100,000. We've dropped it to 50. I think it got it down to 40 next year, and that was always to kind of cover this miscellaneous cost. We're cash flowing enough that we can pay our own expenses out of the TIF now and not bankrupt ourselves. And with the changes at SEA 1, seed it goes away and becomes part of our overall lit. So we're trying to get us more into how a normal redevelopment commission would work by paying everything through the TIF funds with the appropriate allocation. So that's what that is. And then everything else on the bottom side is bond payments. So it feels like you guys won't have a very exciting year next year, but you also have some pretty big projects that coming down that are going to be making some pretty big requests to you that are outside of your spending plan. Such as McCord Square Phase 2 and anything else that comes along. So that's it. The resolution approves this spending plan, and then we're required to upload it into Gateway for 2026.
Okay.
So the 300 grand, is that targeted for anything specific yet, or just?
It is not. I've mentioned the old trading post, but that doesn't mean that has to be what we did. It just had to allocate property acquisition money, and we felt comfortable that 300 was a good number that still left some money in the bank.
Okay.
So that was just, it's a general allocation for property acquisition, which we've been doing quite a bit of.
All right. So we need a motion to pass that, right?
Yeah.
As a resolution? Okay.
Hang on, I can get back here. Okay, so I move that we approve resolution number 110425, the approval of the 2026 RDC spending plan.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Next, we have Resolution 110425A concerning the acquisition of property located at 6832 North 600 West.
So I sent a recap. Hopefully you all got my recap. After talking to both homeowners, our vision is to have this inset 4-acre history park. Everybody's excited about that vision. Council's excited about it. Parks Board's excited about it. RDC seemed excited about it. I'm excited about it. Well, I was less excited when I did the walkthrough, but so we went back. It's just to recap. So this one, the owner passed away. It's in a state. The family's been really good to work with. It's about 1.7 acres. I did mention something that wasn't picked up on the survey because I didn't ask for it because I didn't know it was there. They came back after my offer and said, "What about this small parcel here?" I said, "What small parcel?" And they're like, "Well, we've been paying taxes on it for the last 2 years." So what happened was when Hampton Walk did their survey, there was a deed gap, and you can see it goes all the way down to Lane Farms as well. And there's different ways you can deal with that. You can just, how Hampton Walk did it is they just deeded it to the adjacent owner. So this property ended up with this 0.09 acre sliver, which my heart sank, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do 2 appraisals and update the survey and everything for that. It's not worth the amount of the property. So I talked to our attorney and said we could just tuck it into the counter offer and add that parcel as part of the purchase. So we'd actually be purchasing both parcels. I believe, now I'm going to cheat because I forgot. Our average of 2 appraisals was 230. I did make a note. I felt that was low in general because find 1.7 acres in McCordsville for $230,000. That's a feat in itself. Both the appraisals had deducted for, because the house is like half renovated and didn't get done. We're going to renovate it anyways, so at some point. So It doesn't concern me as much as it might concern an average buyer. So anyways, they came back and said, well, with the expenses we have and everything else, we're asking for $375, which isn't a crazy number. And the market's a little higher than it should be. You know, I was hoping to be around $325 for what we're acquiring at this parcel. I think that's okay. We have about $3 million in park impact fees. We have not spent any other than the due diligence at this point. That being said, we have multiple parks we're kicking tires on that we want to buy over time. So we don't want to just blow through that money, but I don't feel like this one's that off that it is a concern. I think it's a nice parcel. I think we can, even if whatever happens with this one, it's a start, and over time we acquire that parcel if need be. We can kind of project this as a nice community park. We can extend the trails down, connect it into Lane Farms, and use the old homestead as our future park headquarters.
So if the RDC buys this, is then the park going to buy it from RDC?
You're not. You're buying it through the RDC using park dollars.
Okay,
So
so this is
we'll
RDC
deed it.
funds.
We'll actually end up deeding it to the town of McCordsville. I could do that two ways. We could deed it to the redevelopment commission, have you guys do a quick claim deed too, but since you're actually using park money, I'm just gonna deed it straight to the town of McCordsville.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at. There was a lot of debate about, well, if you buy one, do you buy the other, or vice versa. I think this is still a really nice parcel in 600 that could be a nice visible spot for our parks department and a useful area.
But what's going on with the other one?
It's next.
Well, we can talk about
It's
it's next, but we can talk about both of them in
Yeah, we can.
tandem.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on with it. The one thing I want to mention on this in our negotiation, there were a couple old like fuel tanks on there, and I asked them to get rid of those prior to us buying it because it's a lot easier for them to dispose of that than it is us. But the phase one didn't have any major concerns other than those needed to be handled. So I asked that they get handled prior to any closing. They would like to close by the end of the year. So if this gets approved tonight, I will contact title company tomorrow and
Are
get this
there any
process
other
started.
inspections and stuff?
We did it all on these properties. We did phase one
good.
survey, appraisals. We did not do a structural engineer on the homestead. We did them on the two barns. As far as this property, it's exactly what we said it would be, a long-term investment that's going to take a lot of time and bits and pieces to preserve. However, I think it's worth preserving. I think it does have historical value. I actually had an interesting conversation today about the abstracts and what the history of this property actually was. And so there's some digging in we'd want to do with that. The barn itself, the round barn is, especially when you get up in the top area, is really, really cool. The housing part needs cleaned up a little bit, and my only, what I'd say, I won't say disappointment, surprise was the amount of support beams in there. It wasn't as open as I thought it would be in the barn. There were a lot of poles everywhere.
Yeah.
But structurally, overall structurally, it's not. They've done a good job supporting it. They've shored up the base of it. There were some improvements in the structural report that were going to have to be made to make it a commercial structure. They would be easier to do as a residential structure, but because we're taking it over as commercial, the cost would be a little bit more. I will tell you, the other barn, a lot of work. Not sure what the vision is for the other barn. My gut instinct would be, let's keep the round barn and get rid of the other barn, except for the construction of it is unique. The way, I'll say it wrong, but it's very old school, notched. Like you don't see that kind of construction anymore. So there is some cool historical aspect to it. I think there are parts of it that could come down because now it was added onto multiple times. So I think some of the older ones are better just to get rid of. There's a septic field in there that would have to be removed. That's the only thing that really popped up. And it's not a problem. It's just if we're going to hook it up to sewer and water, we don't need a septic system. It's one less septic system around. So the issue is just coming to terms on what we think the value is, because we know we're going to have significant investment over time. That's fair. The appraisals came in at about 100-some thousand off from each other, if you recall. So I think the offer was 430. Yeah, I think it was 430.
437.
437. Thank you. 5. The top appraisal was 500. So when I first started talking this one, he floated out a $1 million number, and there's no way. Through the process, he's kind of talked about 800,000. He does have a couple realtor friends that said, look, you're not paying a realtor. There's savings there, and there's these other expenses. So he came back to like 7 something. I said, well, can we get it under the 7 threshold for, the mental capacity of we're not going over 700. So we got the best we could get down to was the 690 counter offer, which I have here. Which is, a couple $100,000 more than the average of 2 appraisals. So it's a pretty big jump. There's a lot of work to do. We can't, combined, that would put these 2 parcels of just slightly over $1 million for acquisition of 4 acres. So I asked Larry to take a look at it and do some analysis, and your options here are to reject the 690 and make a counter. I don't think he will accept anything, but he can test the market and see what's out there. I think this is a unique buyer. I think it's somebody who has to have unique financing or cash on hand who wants to invest in the property. He also might just hang on to it. That's up to him. It's his property. I think over time, we want to find a way to acquire it. It's just a matter of, do you want to spend the extra now and just get it over with, or do you want to focus on the northern part and then circle back down to the round barn as time goes on, see what happens. It could get sold. There could be that buyer that wants to live in a round barn and invest in it. And that's part of your risk to it. In that case, though, you're preserving the barn, which is the ultimate goal in the first place. So it's just not open to the public. So that's kind of where we're at. We have 2 parcels. It's a weird split. I think there's value to owning either parcel.
Is there more value to owning both?
Yeah, I would much rather own this 4 acre. This is all going to be surrounded. This is Hampton Walk. This is Lane Farms. It's all going to be surrounded. This makes a good infill park. It's a good size. It's good visibility. It does some historic preservation, which there's not a lot of in McCordsville. And it's a long-term vision that everyone seemed really excited about. It's just a matter of threshold for a purchase.
When I think of that scenario, I don't know what's going to make it get less expensive unless one of those buildings were to fall down.
Time,
Yeah,
just time, and he
Time.
won't if he has no other interest. That's all.
But you run the chance of losing it.
You do.
Yep.
You do.
Right?
Yeah.
Trying to see if it plays out.
So we're talking about 100. Let's say we offer 5 or 550 as our counter, whatever the RDC would decide if that's the route you go. So you're talking about $190,000 to $140,000 difference.
How much, do we have an estimate for how much work we have to put into it?
We
Because
haven't.
looking at the pictures from the appraisal, it's not.
I mean,
It doesn't
this
look
one,
that-
but not this one.
It would. I have sat there and thought about phasing because, you're gonna have to. Your first thing is secure the building so it's not the weather's not getting into it. And for the most part, they're living there, so it's not
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
But there are definitely spots on the siding that need tightened up, and the roof's in pretty good shape actually,
Okay.
which is good. And then secure the building. And then the next phase is probably get utilities to the building. And the next phase is start doing some renovation on the building, but yeah, it is definitely a long-term, expensive rehab project. Absolutely.
I think it's a very unique buyer that would be interested in that, because you wouldn't necessarily see an investor buy that because you're up against residential, and you can't convert it to commercial. Does it have a license right now to be a hotel?
It is actually residential right now.
Yeah, so I don't know how an investor could make money off of that right now.
And the town in the past has rejected, like, there was somebody wanted to make it a wedding venue, and that got rejected, and just due to the music. And now that you've surrounded it by residential, they're definitely not going to allow that. So, yeah, and it's not like we're trying to that gentleman who owns it has been really good to work with, really accommodating. Just sees a bigger number than we see on it.
Yeah.
So there's no ill feelings, but we can also, to Dale's point, I mean, if we want to buy it and move forward, we can do that. So
I'd say let's have a discussion before we make a motion.
Yeah, I think the price on the resolution's a little too steep. Still, I mean, having the appraisal and then knowing he had a hard time even appraising it scares me to put that much.
we had two appraisers that definitely disagreed on how to appraise this property, and appraisers love to argue about other appraisers. So, those were great.
They don't know what they're doing.
Like the north, they were within $20,000-$30,000 of each other. That's not bad.
Yeah.
This one was pretty significantly different.
What's an appraisal cost? Is it worth a third?
Appraisals are typically depending on commercial versus residential. These actually weren't too bad because they're residential ones. I'd have to pull up the invoices. It was a couple $1,000s. Commercial ones can be $5,000 or $6,000. I mean, we're probably all in due diligence on this. We're probably over 20 grand. Phase 1, 4 appraisals, structural engineering report.
Yeah, and I mean, we got more money that we have to put into it too. So
That's what
That's why I'd hate to walk away with nothing. That's why
agree,
the
but
northern
not at
northern
his-
parcel. I also think if we own the northern parcel, like this combined, is probably more valuable to an investor than not.
right.
I think this one is in a reasonable realm of acquisition.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
take that one out.
I'm
He's
comfortable.
definitely gonna have to
I'm
sit on
comfortable
it.
with that one.
Me too.
But
Me too.
the price
Yeah,
for
but not the
this
other
other
one.
one. I mean, do you remember what the highest appraisal was? Was it 500?
It was 500.
Okay.
It was almost like on the.
I didn't
On the
want to
dot.
write off of that.
And what
I
was,
just let him sit.
sorry, Tim, you reminded, what was our offer to
Four-
him when he
four-
countered?
437.
430, and he came back. Well, after we discussed it multiple times, we got to 690. So that's what I brought back to you. Was his official counter.
But the first one was 437.
Well, I would say maybe it's worth a counter offer of 500.
I was going to say
And
500.
just say, hey,
I would
this is it.
definitely. My recommendation is if you're going to approve A, which is the homestead, you can approve that. That one includes the contingencies of splitting the closing costs, adding that second sliver parcel in, and then closing by the end of the year. And then on B, I would not approve the resolution, but authorize staff to go back with a counter offer of your choosing, if that's the route you're going.
So don't pass the resolution?
The resolution
That's
is
the
to
first one.
accept $690,000.
Oh, yeah, so we're not approving it.
We're not
Okay.
doing that.
All right,
Yeah, the resolution was drafted as though you were
Yeah.
going to
We're all
accept
down
the
here
counter
tomorrow.
offer.
yeah, okay. Just want to make sure that we can change the number in the resolution. But
You-
the resolution sets a number in motion.
Yeah,
Where we're
you're,
trying to
you're
just say-
approving 690, but if you don't want to do that, don't approve the resolution, but you can make a motion to authorize staff to go back with a counter offer.
Okay.
Okay.
But we can approve the
But
first
yeah,
one.
is everyone
Right, this one's
comfortable
separate,
with
right?
the homestead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I move that we approve resolution number 110425A concerning the acquisition of real property for the counter offer amount of $375,000 with the conditions as noted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay.
Okay, then
Larry,
for
you
the-
wanted to-
for the
Make sure
next
you
one.
sign the right, make sure you sign the right resolution.
Okay. I just publicly state I'm not going to support resolution number 110425B, but I would authorize Tim to go back up to $500,000.
Do a motion to deny resolution.
Yes.
Do we have to do that? Okay.
I would, and then I'd do a separate motion to authorize me to
Okay.
counter.
Okay.
Okay, so then I move that we deny resolution number 110425B for acquisition of real property.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
And then I would support a motion to authorize Tim to go back and negotiate with the property owner up to $500,000.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
Me.
passes.
Opposed.
Okay. Opposed? 3-1.
3-1.
Okay, 3-1.
There you go.
So you're not good at 500,000?
Not right now.
Okay.
I think he just needs to sit.
That's just
That's up
curious.
to you guys.
I just think they'd
Perfectly
go
It might
good
end
together.
up being that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
But this could turn out different than we think.
It could.
No, it's
Because
good.
we could own the north one
No,
and
that's good.
somebody
Honestly-
come back and want them
We'll
both
see
for
that.
real lot of money.
Everybody just goes, eh.
And honestly, this will allow me to focus on that northern parcel and get it secured and up.
So do you have what you need on the motion to redraw
Yep.
the, for B?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll let you know how it all works out.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Well, we have no
No
town
liaison.
council liaison to report. Do we have any public comment? Okay, well then our next meeting will be December 2nd.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.